Hello my dear children, welcome to Learner's Planet. Children, we will study about growing plants, and in this session you will learn about the importance of plants and growing plants from seeds, and also we will study about the process of dispersal. Alright children, now let's see. Children, if you sow many seeds too close to one another, what will happen? They will compete with each other, right? And they will compete for what? They will compete for air, water and nutrients and even space, right? So if they will compete, they will not be able to grow into a new plant, right? They will grow, but some would be short, some would be long, some would be getting more nutrients, some seeds will be getting less nutrients, right? And we know very well that if a seed will not get right amount of air, water and nutrients and warmth from the soil and the other factors, then what will happen? A seed will not be able to germinate, right? The seed will not germinate properly. It will produce into a plant but not into a healthy plant. So if you sow many seeds too close to one another, what will happen? They will compete with each other, right? So this has to be taken care of. If the farmer is sowing seed, then he has to be very careful while sowing. Why? Because if he will not scatter it properly, all the seeds will compete for the nutrients, water, air and warmth with each other. And what will happen then? The seed will not be able to grow properly. So, if anyone is sowing seed, do make it sure that it has to be scattered properly, right? Do not sow many seeds too close to one another. Alright children, so what happens actually after the seeds germinate? Yes, after the seeds germinate, they will struggle for air, water, sunlight, nutrients and even the space to grow, because some plants have such a type of property or a feature which will grow into a very broad stem, right? It requires much more space to grow. So some plants grow into a very broad stem. For example, they will grow into a trunk, right? But some plants are having a property or a feature like growing into a narrow stem. So they will not require that much of space as compared to the plant which will grow into a broad stem, right? So they also struggle for the space to grow. Alright, so while scattering the seeds, the farmers or any of the person who is scattering or sowing the seeds, they have to make sure that after they germinate, they will struggle for all such factors. So they also need the space to grow. Alright, so they have to be scattered properly. Alright, so after the seeds germinate, they will struggle for air, water, sunlight. From sunlight they will get warmth, then nutrients and even the space to grow, as you can see here in this picture, right? What you can see here, now the plant grows when the boy is scattering seeds on the soil, right? So he is scattering seeds not too close, right? He is scattering seeds separately, means each of the seed is getting space to grow and even nutrients, air, water and sunlight to grow. And that is why it is able to grow into a very big and a healthy plant. Alright? So children, many of the plants would even die if they do not get air, water, sunlight, etc. Right, as we discussed above, right? What happens to the plants if they do not get air, water or sunlight in the right or the proper amount? They will not be able to germinate, right? because all such factors are important for a baby plant or a seedling or the seed to germinate into a new big plant, right? They will grow but not into a proper plant, or they will die soon, right? So many of the plants would die if they do not get any of these. Alright children, so always remember that air, water, sunlight, nutrients and even space to grow is very important for a seed to germinate into a proper, healthy, big plant. Children, in nature, many plants scatter their seeds in order to ensure that they do not grow too close to one another, right? So there are two methods. One, if we sow the seeds, and the second thing is the plants scatter their seeds in nature. It's in nature of the seeds, or it's in nature of the plants, right? They scatter themselves. They scatter their seeds themselves only, and they scatter in such a way that they do not grow too close to one another. So this is so amazing thing about plants, right? In nature there are many such plants. They scatter their seeds themselves in order to ensure that they do not grow too close to one another, because after that they will compete for one another, right? They will compete with each other for all the factors and they will not be able to grow. So in nature, many plants scatter their seeds themselves, and while for the other ones, for the other plants, we sow seeds, but we have to scatter it properly. Alright children? So always remember this. So I hope that this topic is clear to you, growing plants from seeds. So what and how much is important for the plants to grow from the seeds that we discussed. And now we are going to discuss about a very interesting process, that is dispersal. So children, what is meant by dispersal? Yes, the process by which the seeds are scattered away from the mother plant is called dispersal. Alright children? So what is dispersal actually? What we studied just now, that in nature many seeds scatter themselves only, right? So this process by which the seeds are scattered away from the mother plant by themselves or by us is called dispersal. Alright children? And nature has its own ways of dispersal of seeds, as you can see here. Right? So nature has also got its own ways of dispersing the seeds, that is scattering the seeds away from the mother plant. Right? So this is a very amazing thing about plants, that they scatter the seeds by themselves. But this does not happen in all the plants. There are almost or some of the plants that are scattering away themselves, and they follow this process of dispersal. Alright children? So we can say that nature has its own ways of dispersal of seeds. Right? So there are many such medium who are acting for this dispersal of seeds. Right? So let's study about all the factors of dispersal. First of all, we will discuss about dispersal by wind. Alright children? So the first one is dispersal by wind. Children, seeds of certain plants are very light in weight and they have wings or hair on them. Alright? So these seeds, being very light in weight, are easily carried away by the wind. Right? So they have got wings around them or hairs around them. Right? So these are very light in weight because of wings or hair on them, and that is why, being light in weight, these seeds are easily carried away by the wind, and when they are carried away by the wind, they scatter into the soil. Right? And if the soil is fertile, then what happens? Yes, the seed will germinate into a healthy plant. Alright, so this way the dispersal by wind takes place. For example, sycamore. Sycamore is a plant which is having winged seeds and they are carried away by wind. And even the second one is dandelion. Dandelion seeds have hair on them that act like a parachute. So wind carries these seeds far away from the parent plant, and the fluff around the cotton seed helps it to float away with the wind, as it is very light in weight. So always remember, the plants which have wings and hair on them are very light in weight, and being very light in weight, they are carried away by wind, and so the dispersal by wind takes place. Alright children, so this is one such factor by which dispersal of seeds takes place. Now let's see another factor, that is dispersal by animals. Right children, animals and human beings eat some fruits and they throw away the seeds, alright, which grow into new plants. As you can see here in this picture, this small little bird, right, and even you can see here, this is a crow, right. So animals and human beings and even birds eat some fruits and throw away the seeds. As you can see here, they are throwing away the seeds. So what will happen when they throw away the seeds after eating the whole fruit? Right, they grow into a new plant, that is into a new fruit. Right, so we can say that certain seeds help in their dispersal. Right, so how do they help in their dispersal? Yes, because certain seeds have hooks, they have stiff hair, or they have spines which help in their dispersal. Alright, so what happens actually? Dispersal by animals takes place. How does it take place? Animals and human beings eat fruits and they throw away the seeds which grow into new plants. And certain seeds, they have hooks, stiff hair or spines which help in their dispersal. Alright, so the dispersal by animals also takes place in this way. Children, you will be amazed to know that some seeds have spines or hooks, right? These seeds stick to the bodies of the animals and birds, and then they are carried away from the parent plant, right? And these birds and animals also eat fruits, alright? So what happens? Seeds pass through their digestive systems in an undigested form and they are then dispersed to other areas, alright? So in this way the dispersal by animals takes place. Alright children, so isn't it amazing? Right, the seeds will stick to the bodies of the animals and birds and they are then carried away from their parent plant or the mother plant, right? And birds and animals will eat the fruit but they are not able to digest their seeds, right? So what happens? Seeds will pass through their digestive system in an undigested form and then they are dispersed to other areas. Alright, and in this way the dispersal by animals takes place. Alright children, so there is such an example, one such example of cocklebur. Cocklebur seeds have spines, right? So these seeds are carried away by the animals. Alright, and dispersal by animals takes place in this way. Children, the third factor of dispersal of seeds is by water. Children, seeds of some plants are spongy or they have a fibrous covering, right? So why is this spongy or the fibrous covering is present on them, right? By nature they have got spongy or fibrous covering, and what is it helping for? It helps them to float on the water. Alright children, let's see one example. Yes, lotus. Lotus is an example of such a seed. Such a seed has a spongy or the fibrous covering, and it helps them to float on the water. And because of this, water transports these seeds from one place to another. Right? You can see in this picture. Right? So what happens actually? Water transports their seeds by the help of a medium called water from one place to the another place. And that is why you must have noticed that lotus is actually present around water or inside water, right? That is why the dispersal by water takes place in the lotus plant. Alright, and the second example is coconut. What happens in the coconut? Yes, coconuts can travel several thousand kilometers across the oceans, right? And the coconut palms on the South Sea Islands grew from coconuts are carried there by ocean currents, alright? And that is why we see many coconuts around water, right? Wherever you see water or any ocean types of surface or the coastal areas, whenever you visit such a place like any coastal area, you will see lots of coconuts or lots of coconut trees around there, right? And you will see coconuts around those trees. They are the coconut trees from which the coconuts fall, alright? So coconuts can travel 7,000 kilometers across the oceans because they have got the fibrous covering around them, and that is why dispersal by water takes place in coconut plant. Alright children, so is it clear to you? So we can say that water transports the seeds from one place to another in lotus plant and the coconut plant. Now we will see the another factor, that is explosion. The dispersal of seeds also takes place by the process of explosion. So how does it take place? Let's study about it. Children, fruits of certain plants burst and open when they are ripe, right? When they are in raw condition, they are not able to do so. They will not burst if they are in raw condition, right? So whenever they are ripe, the fruits of these plants will burst open. And what happens then? Yes, they will scatter their seeds in all the directions. Alright, so here you can see one such example, right? This is not an example of the dispersion by explosion, but it is just an imagination. Just imagine that this way the fruits of certain plants will spread in all the direction. They scatter their seeds in all the direction by themselves, right? So let's see some examples like apple. Apple is such an example of a seed which is taking place by the dispersal by explosion. Right? How does it take place? Yes, fruit of this is a fruit, apple, right? So this plant will burst open when it will be ripened, right? And then it will scatter the seeds in all the direction. So by scattering their seeds in all the directions, what will happen? The dispersal by explosion has now taken place, and now they will germinate into a new apple. Right, a new apple plant. Alright, and after that, when it will germinate into a new apple plant, we will be able to get ripened fruits. Alright children, so this way the dispersal by explosion takes place in an apple fruit. Then in poppy, what happens? Mature poppy fruits are dispersing the seeds. Right, how does it happen? When the seeds of the pea plant are ripe, the pod bursts open and the peas are scattered away from the plant. In the same way, in poppy also, when they are matured, the mature poppy fruits disperse the seeds, right? they scatter the seeds in all the directions, as you can see in this picture, right? These are the seeds, right? So they scatter their seeds in all the directions, and then they grow into a new poppy plant. And again, when it becomes mature, this mature poppy fruit will disperse the seeds around them, and they will be able to germinate into a new poppy plant. Alright children, so the same process takes place in apple also, and also in the pea plant. Alright, and this mechanism of seed dispersal by any of the factor, either by wind or animals or by water or by explosion, right? This mechanism of seed dispersal is called explosion. Alright children, so is it clear to you? The dispersal by wind, by animals, by water and by explosion. Alright, so this mechanism of seed dispersal is called explosion. As you can see here in the background, in the picture, this is a picture of a seed dispersal, right? So this mechanism is termed as explosion. Alright children, so I hope that all the dispersal factors and the process of dispersal is clear to you. So children, I hope you enjoyed this session. We will meet in the next session with more information on growing plants. Till then, keep learning, keep enjoying.